All right, students, here we go. What I want you to remember that when you are working on this is I only have a partial list of the benchmark fractions here. In order for you to truly be successful, you're going to want to have your textbook at some point in time, and you're going to want to look at page 268, and on the bottom left-hand corner of that page is a list of more of these benchmarks. These are some of the simple benchmarks that you really should have memorized. So, what is a benchmark? Well, basic fractions that we should have memorized. Things that we should know the difference between. 1/2 to 50%, 1/10 to 10%. Those are fractions and decimal relations that we should know. Why is that important? Well, let's look at a problem like this. To solve a problem like this, 20% of 45, there are many ways that I can do this. One way is to know, well, what is 10% and how do I find 10%? Remember we talked about 10% in class, meaning we can move the decimal over here. We showed all the dividing, but we found that we can just move that decimal over. So 10% would be 4.5. And for 10% to equal 20%, well, I'd want two 10%s because 10% and 10% is 20. So 10% and 10%, well, this would give me a 20%. And 4.5 plus 4.5 would give me 9. That's one way of doing this. However, what we're looking at today is how do I use benchmark fractions? How do I use my common sense and my knowledge of fractions to solve this? So the other way that we talked about would have been this. We know that 20% is the same as writing 20 over 100. Any percent I have, I put over 100. If I reduce this, I'll go in two steps. It'd be 2 over 10. And if I reduce it again, it'll be 1 over 5. So now what I can say is that 20% is equivalent to 1/5, or it's equal to. Well, if they're equal, they're also interchangeable. So I could say 1/5 of, or times, 45. Take your basic knowledge of multiplying fractions, tops times the tops, bottom times the bottom, and then divide, or divide here, and we're going to see that 45 can be divided by 5, gives us an answer of 9. 9 times 1 is 9, so this will yield the same answer, give us an answer of 9, just the same as what we had here. Let's try this. 33.3% of 93. Now I know I'm writing, but I just want you to see where I'm getting it from. 33.3%. Your brain right now should be running around saying 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That should just be one that you know. So now I can divide. I know that 3 goes into 9 3 times and into 1, or into 3 one time. So this will give me 31. I know that mathematically these can just divide. I'd be multiplying by 1, so there's my answer. Really quick. This method was much quicker than going 10%, 10%, 10%, and then what do I do with the extra 3? So what's needed? To know these benchmarks, to know that these two are equivalent and are interchangeable. Let's try another one. All right, what's running around in your head right now? What are you thinking about for equivalence here? 25% is the same as, I think about money. I know there's 1/4 out of a total of 4 that can go into a dollar. Now I want 1/4 of 32. 32 divided by 4, because this would be like over 1. 32 divided by 4 is 8. Really quick. Again, much quicker than the 10%, 10%, 5%. Just know what the equivalents are. 80% of 45. 80%, well, that'd be like 8 over 10. I could use this, or I know this reduces to 4 over 5. 4 over 5 would be like 4/5. 80% is the same as 4/5 of 45. Of 45. That'd be like 45 over 1. So, does anything go in here? 45 divided by 5. Sure does, 9. But this time it's a little bit different because now I want 4 groups of 9. So this would be like 1, that would be like 9. 4 groups of 9 is 36. Yes, again, I'm showing my work here, but we're hoping with this is something you can start to do in your head. 80% is the same as 4/5. Ooh, 45, it takes 5 9 times. 4 of those is 36. Oh, I thought there was another one here. Guess not. Okay, let's try the same thing here. We're going to skip the decimal benchmarks for right now, and we're just going to keep working with the percents. So 80% again. 80% we had just talked about is the same as 4/5. So now I have 4/5 of 35. Does 5 go into 35? Sure does. Once and 5 equals 20. Again, we want you to try to do as much of this in your head as you can. 10%. Now that should be an easy one. 10% is 1/10 of or times 350. Divide this, 35. But without doing that, remember, if 100% equals 350, and now I want 10%, well, that decimal came in once to give me that 10, so it needs to come in once to give me 10%. There we go. Let's try another one really quick on 10%. 10% of 2,170. Well, 100% would be this whole thing. So if I came in 1, 10% would equal 217. Okay, here we go. We have Alan. Alan and his brother. They ate lunch at the local cafe and they left a tip that was 20%. So we have a 20% tip. Their total was $15.50. This one we can either set it up as 2 over 10 or 1/5, depending on how you want to do it. However, in this case, I do think that this is the best option. It's quick and painless. So, how do I find 10%? We just did 2 problems like it. To find the 10%, I drag it over once, and my 10% would be $1.55. I have to do that twice. Well, 10% and 10% make 20%, and this would be $3.10. And there you go. So you just are doing the same thing over and over again. So what do I need to know? Know some of your basic benchmarks. Turn them to fractions. If decimal do not work or are not efficient, maybe we should say that. If decimals are not efficient, and then turn fractions to if decimals are not efficient, and then divide by the denominator, and multiply by the numerator. And for those of you watching this after you have learned lesson 5.6, numerator, I can't talk and write at the same time, I apologize. For those of you watching this after lesson 5.6, it's going to be pretty helpful for you because 5.6 will make a little bit more sense, but 5.4 will also make more sense after knowing 5.6 because we talked a little bit more about how to set the problems up differently. So if you're still a little bit confused, maybe go to 5.6. All right, thank you.